Hello and good evening, Asya, Dijesh and Kelvin. So good evening and welcome to class. So today we are going to discuss about the concept of wages. Alright, in the last few classes we have been doing the concepts, we have been doing about the factor pricing. How is the factor pricing done? Means how the factors of production are paid, in what form and how are they paid. So today we are going to discuss about the wages, the concept of wages. Okay, so can you tell me wages is the what is wages? What do we mean by wages? Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Okay, salary. Yes, that's correct. Salary is for the skilled labor. Okay, we hire managers, we hire accountants, chief managers, actuary, and likewise people. So that is the remuneration to them is called the salary, and wages is the remuneration which we pay to the unskilled labor. Okay, so it's one and the same. The only difference is of the name. Yeah, wages may be paid daily, salary is paid normally monthly, but wages may also be paid monthly. Like if you are paying to a gatekeeper, so do you think gatekeeper is he is he a skilled worker or an unskilled worker? The guard, the gatekeeper, these people. Unskilled. So their remuneration can also be termed as the wages. Okay. So we can start with this. So Divya, Manoj, good evening. Welcome to class. Is this your first class, Divya? Divya, am I audible to you? Am I audible to everybody? Asya, Dijesh, Kelvin, Divya? Okay, Dijesh is saying yes. What about others? Kelvin, Asya, what about you? Kelvin, are you there? Hello? Just 1 minute. Okay. So we can just yes, Kelvin. Hello, am I audible to you? Yes, now it's fine. Okay, all right. So let's just resume. Actually, the signals were not very good. Signals were red. Now it's green. All right. So we can just now start. Prabha, good evening. Welcome to class. Today we are discussing about the concept of wages. Okay. So wages is the remuneration that is paid to the unskilled labor. Okay. The remuneration that is paid to the skilled labor is known as the salary, like managers, accountants, chief manager. These are all salary takers, and wages is for the unskilled labor. So we are just at the start of the chapter. So wages may be described as one of the several concepts including wage rate, straight time, average hourly earnings. Yes, Kelvin. White collar workers, they draw the salary and the others are paid the wages. So gross average hourly earnings, weekly take home pay and annual earnings. So like these are the different names by which the same concept is addressed, and these names are derived on the basis of the method of calculation. Okay, so this is there. Yeah, Kelvin, that's correct. You know, initially these the concept of wages was something of great importance to every nation. Now, can you just tell me why it was so in the very initial days, or we can say in years back, 20 years before this time? The concept of wages and wage calculation was of great importance, but now it is not so very important. Can you just tell me what is the reason? Why is it so? Why is it not so very important now? Why this transformation? Yeah, did you get my question? Asya, Dijesh, Kelvin, Divya and Prabha. Did you get it? Am I audible? Yeah. Okay, my question is that wages or calculation of wages is not a very important concept now. It is not a matter of utmost importance for any organization. Now, why is it so? Can you tell me why this change has come? Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, no idea. Actually, the reason behind this is that previously the works in the factories was very labor dependent. Okay, the labors were the key to manufacturing, but now with innovation and technology, the work has become more of machine. Okay, it's now not manual, it's no longer manual, it's automatic now. So this is the reason why labor now is not a very important factor for any organization. The work can be done by the machine. We only need people to operate, isn't it? So that is the difference. Yeah, due to technological advancement. So we can now continue. So let's go forward. Okay, so the concept earnings relates to the remuneration in cash and in kind paid to the employees. As a rule, at regular intervals for time work or work done together with remuneration for time not work. Yeah, earnings means whatever we are getting, our remuneration. So wages in the widest sense means any economic compensation made by the employer under some contract to his employees for the services rendered by them. Gross earnings may differ from the wage rate not only because of the number of days or weeks on which a worker is able or willing to secure the employment. Okay, so this gross earnings may differ obviously if a worker is working for 12 hours a day and the other is working for 8 hours a day. Their wages will be different. So the two terms often used interchangeably are wages and salary. But the difference is that of the category of the labor that we are talking about. So several terms have acquired currency referring to the wage levels, like statutory minimum wage, the base or base minimum wage, fair wage, living wage, need-based minimum wage. These are the different types of wages that is being talked about now. Okay, the concepts of wages. So what is the first thing? That is the minimum wages. Now what is this minimum wages? So there can be three kind of minimum wages. Just a minute. You read this. You read this. All of you. I'm just uploading something else. It's not uploading. Okay. So yeah, minimum wages is the wage which has to be paid by the employer because of the government rules and regulations. Okay, like under the Minimum Wages Act 1948, for different employment, different scheduled employments, different wage rates have been defined. Okay, just wait. I'll have to adjust the resolution. Wait 1 minute. I'll adjust it. Rajesh. Okay, I think now it's fine. It's visible. So, minimum wages can be of three types. Means 800 AED. So I guess 1 dinar is almost equal to 17 rupees. So that's 800 into 17. And how, like, they come in the morning and the evening, or like they are there for the whole day? Prabha? Living. Okay. Means they are full-time employments, full-time workers, full-time maids. Okay. Yeah. So that's 18 into, like it's 800 into 17. How much that will be? $13,600. Yes. Okay. So that's pretty, like, it's pretty high. In India, you get a full-time maid for around 7,000, 8,000. Okay. So a minimum wage drawn by an unskilled worker in an organized industry as a result of wage settlement, which is purely the result of hard bargaining. So like this is on the basis of the, okay, that is a perk which they are getting, insurance and phone. So in in UAE also insurance is mandatory for every person, like in Canada and in US. You have to have your insurance as soon as you step out of the airport, you step out of the airplane. But is it so? Okay. In their country also, UAE also. That's a good thing. So this is something that is derived on the basis of the bargaining. The need-based minimum wage is determined as per the norms described by the 15th session of Indian Labour Conference. Like, the basic thing is we need to know what is the minimum wage. So minimum wage is the wage which an industry is bound to pay to its worker, and it is determined as per the law. Okay. Now need-based minimum wages. To calculate the minimum wage, the committee accepted the following 5 norms and recommended that they should guide all wage fixing authorities, including minimum wage committees, wage boards and adjutors. In calculating the minimum wage, the standard working class family should be taken to consist of 3 consumption units for 1 earner. You know, like we have criteria. These all criteria are decided by the international bodies like UNESCO, UNICEF, World Health organization WHO, these organizations, they conduct surveys in the different countries, and based on their survey they give a guideline. Like in a country like India, suppose I am talking about India. In a country like India, not in a country like India, this is a general survey which says that a lady is required to have 2500 calories a day minimum. Okay, so a pregnant lady is required to have extra 1000 calories. A child is required to have 200 like something 1000 calories, and a teenager is likely to have this much calories. So on the basis of these things, how much amount will be spent to get that minimum of calories required for a particular age group, that is decided, and that forms the minimum wage rate for a particular industry or for a particular kind of worker. Okay. Like minimum food requirement should be calculated on the basis of the net intake of 2700 calories. So how much money is needed to get that 2700 calories, that is determined, and on that basis the wage for a particular class of labor and for a particular age group is decided. Clothing requirement should be estimated at a per capita consumption of 18 yards per annum, which could give for the average worker's family of 4 a total of 72 yards. And while doing these calculations, it is assumed that a family consists of 4 people. Okay. So in respect of housing, the norm should be minimum rent charged by the government in any area of houses provided under the subsidized industrial housing scheme for low income groups. Like we have EWS. You know what is EWS? EWS type of housing is such type of housing scheme in UAE also. EWS housing. No? Okay. EWS means the economically weaker section. So there is a particular housing scheme in which the houses are available at a cheaper price to the people of the country, to the people. Okay, so it is basically for the people who fall in the category of weaker sections of the society. So how much rent is to be paid, that is decided by the government. Fuel, lighting and other miscellaneous items of expenditure should constitute 20% of the total minimum wages. Like suppose the minimum wages works out to be 5000 rupees. No, I'll start with a very low one. Suppose the minimum wages comes out to be 1500 per month for a family. Okay. Now this 1500 is the expected minimum wage now per person. Okay. Now if there are 4 persons in the family, now I'll make it even simpler. Suppose it comes out to be 500 per person a month. Now there are 4 members in the family. We assume that there are 4 members. So it should be 2000 for a family. So per person 500 rupees. Now for this 2000 should be divided by 30 days of labor in a month. So then we are going to get, suppose we get 167. So 167 is the minimum wage which should be paid to a particular class of family for a day. Okay, so this is how the minimum wage rate or the wage rate for industry is determined. Is it clear? Asiya, Dijesh, Kelvin, Divya, Prabha. Simple mathematics. Now going forward, Now there is a new term, that is fair wage. Okay, now what is this fair wage? It is defined as an equal to that received by workers performing work of equal skills, difficulty or unpleasantness. Means like good evening Muhammad, like there should be some difference between a skilled and a semi-skilled and then a unskilled worker. Okay, like the unskilled worker includes the people who help in the construction sites, those who do the menial jobs. Okay, those are the unskilled workers. Now in this statute also we have some semi-skilled workers. Semi-skilled workers like mason, electrician, plumber, these are all semi-skilled. Okay, so their salary or their wages is always more than the unskilled worker. Like mason may be paid 600 rupees a day, but the unskilled labor will be paid 300 a day. So there's a difference between the two. So fair wage, the wage should be that it should be in accordance with your skill. Alright. So the Committee on Fair Wages stated that the fair wage was something between a minimum wage and a living wage. So the lower limit of a fair wage must obviously be the minimum wage. The upper limit is equally set by that what may broadly be called as the capacity of the industry to pay. So the lower limit for this wage should be the minimum wage, that is that a family needs to survive in order to survive, and the upper limit should be the capacity of the industry to pay. If it's a growing industry, then definitely the fair wage in that industry will be higher. Like retail industry is very much at the verge of growth presently. Shopping malls are opening, retail outlets are opening. So retail industry is very much in progress, very much in the phase of growth. So that is an industry which whose capacity to pay will be also much higher. So the fair wage rate depends on the capacity of the industry to pay. The next is the living wage. How is it defined? It is defined as the normal needs of the average employee regarded as a human being living in a civilized community. Means it is the amount that is needed to satisfy this parameter. So there are three possible ways of obtaining some indication as to what constitutes a living wage. It should be sufficient to pay for a satisfactory basic budget. Means when you are living in a civilized community, how much do you need? Like if you have been living in the previous era, when you were not civilized, when the human being was uncivilized, then you might not have needed clothes, isn't it? People used to wear leaves and all. Then you might not have needed the luxury items, you might not have needed the fuel for making the food and all. So we are living in a civilized community. So based on that we have to decide our living wages. Means the minimum wages to support the standard of living. Now it should be sufficient to purchase the minimum theoretical needs of a typical family, calculated in accordance with some more or less scientific formula. So it should be comparable with a living wage already established in similar circumstances. It is difficult task to fix a living wage in terms of money, as it differs from country to country and from time to time according to national economy and social policies. Okay, if I talk about a country like US, in US having a mobile is a necessity, isn't it? Mobile is a necessity over there. Okay, but if I talk about a country like Ghana, Kenya or Zambia, so these are very underdeveloped countries. So in these countries having mobile is a luxury. Okay, so these parameters will differ from country to country, depends on the state of development of the country. So because of this reason, the calculations are done separately for different countries. And these are done by international bodies like UNESCO, UNICEF. Okay. Now comes the concept of money and real wages. So money wages, something that everybody knows. How much is going to be paid in terms of money. Now what is this real wage? Okay, so for this we'll have to go to this one. Now let's see what is a real wage. Real wage refers to the purchasing power or buying capacity of the money wage. Okay, so it is the amount of necessaries, comforts and luxuries which the worker can command in return for his remuneration. Thus real wage is expressed in terms of goods and services. It is the amount of goods and services or benefits that a worker enjoys against out of his job. The real wage is said to be high when a laborer obtains larger quantity of goods and services with his money income. So real wage is the buying capacity of the money. Like we are having a 10 rupee note, and with that 10 rupee we can buy 1 kg of potato. Okay, we can buy, what happened, 1 minute. Yes, so we can buy 1 kg of potato with that 10 rupee. Then we can also buy half a dozen of banana, or we can buy like n number of things with that 10 rupee note. So how are we going to utilize it to get the maximum utility out of it? That is the real wage. It refers to the purchasing power or the buying capacity of the money wages. So it is the amount of goods and services or benefits that a worker enjoys against of his job. Like suppose if there is a laborer family and the labor family is earning, the labor is earning 4,000 rupees a month. I am talking about unskilled labor. He is getting 4,000 rupees a month. So with that 4,000 rupees, it is assumed that he will be able to support his family well. He will be able to provide at least two times meal to them, and minimum of clothing, minimum of living, everything. Okay, but now if the same labor, he is spending money on nonsense, he is spending money of irrelevant things. The worst thing that can be done by them is to drink. If he is spending the money on alcohol, his whole earning, now that is not justified. So for him, the real wages in this case will be the minimum standard of living which he can give to his family, not the liquor which he is consuming and like he is spending the money on that. Okay, did you get it? So what are the factors which determine the real wage? There are different factors. So the first is the purchasing power of money. Obviously, more the purchasing power of money, more is the real wages. Lesser is the purchasing power, lesser are the real wages. So that depends on the economic condition, the strength of the economy. Then additional facilities. Besides money wages, a worker gets certain other benefits in his job. If such benefits are more besides his money income, his real income is more. For example, a worker gets free housing, free education for his children, free medical service other than his monthly salary. In such a case, his real wage is higher, isn't it? Apart from the salary which he is getting, he may be getting 2,000 rupees less, but he is getting such facilities, housing, education, medical, everything. So in this case, his real wages are really high. Now extra income. Now extra income of a worker is also taken into consideration in calculating the real wage of a laborer. If a worker earns extra income in addition to his wage, his real wage will be higher. So like a school teacher earns as a private tutor and the income he earns is subsidiary to his main income from teachership. So in such a case, his real income is more. Similarly, a doctor, he is practicing in a government hospital and then he is having a private clinic also. So his real income is really high. Now, condition of work. The working condition of a laborer also determines his real wage. So if the duration of work is less and there is recreational facilities, place of working is well ventilated, well lighted, then real wages will be certainly higher. Okay. So the condition of the work, if it is good, then we can assume that his real wages are more because he is getting more amount of satisfaction than what he can get out of his actual income in terms of money. The nature of job. Now real wages also depends on the nature of the job. The real wage is lower if the job is temporary. Then if the job is permanent, his real wage will be more. If your job is permanent, you are not very uncertain about your future. So temporary job is more or less unsecured. So even if he is getting more in his temporary job, but his real income is less. Now what is this? Period and expenses of learning a trade. The period and the money expenditure also determines the real wage. The period of study and training and cost of learning the jobs are high. The real wage of the worker is said to be falling. Okay, like if the company is paying you less, but they are sending you to seminars, they are sending you to workshops, then what is happening? You are getting the exposure, your learning is increasing. So in this case, the real income is higher. But if you are getting less wage, you are getting appropriate wages, but there is no exposure for you to learn new things. So in this case, your wages, real wages, not high, it is low. So the real wage of a clerk in the administration is higher than the real wage of a doctor. Yes, one more factor is like doctor takes 8 years to become a doctor and he spends a lot of money in his education. But a clerk, he can get one person can get a job of clerk after the graduation. So there also the comparison says that the real income of the doctor will be less. Okay, because he has already spent a lot of time and money on his education. The nature of work. The real wages are also determined by the risk and uncertainty involved in the work. Yes, if the work is risky, real wages will be lower. For example, a captain in submarine always expects danger and risk. So he receives higher wages, but in spite of his higher wages, his real wage is lower. Because there is no certainty of his life. For an army officer, the real wage is very low, isn't it? For a pilot, the real wages are low. This is the only reason why these people are very highly paid. You know, the pilots in India, if I talk about pilot of Air India is the official airline, is the government airline of the country. So in Air India, the average salary of the pilots is from 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees a month. Okay. Now the reason behind this is that the risk and danger involved in their job. Similarly with the captains, the ship captain, the same thing is there. Now future prospects. The real wage is said to be higher in those jobs where there is possibility of promotion and other future prospects. But where jobs are traditional and static, there is hardly any chance of promoting to higher position. So the real wage is said to be lower. Same thing. Okay. So what is this social prestige? So the jobs which have higher social prestige ensure a high real wage. Like what the mentality of people in India is that a government job is a high job. You know, the job of an IPS, Indian Police Officer, Indian Police Services, or an IRS, Indian Revenue Services, administrative jobs which are there. You are not getting much salary in these. The salary in case of a government job is much less as compared to a private job. But you are getting lots of additional benefits out of these. You are getting a red light car, you are getting respect, you are getting lifetime facilities. Okay, so that all is there. Is it clear? The concept of real wages? Yeah, assurance is there. Okay, so this was about the real wages. So now let's go to the next part of this. So with the exceptions of the first plan period, money wage increase have lagged behind price increase throughout the period of Indian planning. Okay, we are talking with respect to India. So there is a planning commission in every, I don't know about every country, but in India there is a planning commission. It is a statutory body, and the function of the planning commission is to make 5-year plans for the development of the country. So since the time India has won independence, we are having planning commissions. So after, like, except for the first period of planning, for all the other planning years, what has been seen is that the money wage increase have always been less than the increase in the prices of other things. Okay. So since the early 60s, there has been a continuous rise in the prices of most of all consumption of goods and services. So in an inflationary situation, there is bound to be erosion of the purchasing power of earnings or money wages. Yes, your salary is increasing just by 5%, okay, and the inflation of the country is increasing by 12%. So from where are we going to cover that gap of 7%? This is a big question. So it is no doubt true that that unless money wage rise as fast as consumer price, it would result in the erosion of real wages. Yes, your real wages are also suffering because of this. Now wage theories. So there is subsistence theory, wage fund theory, marginal productivity theory, residual claimant theory, employment theory. Different theories are there. Okay. Means that inflation was high and the earning was less, isn't it? Yeah. So the first theory is the subsistence theory. So this is simple. We can make out from the name itself. Subsistence means to sustain, to support life. So this says that in the long run, wages would tend towards the sum which is necessary to maintain a worker and his family. So while Adam Smith and David Ricardo argued that if the growth of population brings down the wages to the level of minimum subsistence, Karl Marx argued that the subsistence wage emerged because of the phenomena of unemployment and the reserve army of labor. So we need not get into this. The crux of the theory is that in the long run, the salary should be something that is going to support the family. That is subsistence, the minimum amount needed to support a family. Now I think I have left one in between. Yeah, wage fund theory. So this theory stated that at any given moment, wages are determined by the relative magnitude of the workforce and the whole or a certain part of the capital of the country. So the wages are paid from a fixed wage fund. So this concept says that wages will be determined by the magnitude of the workforce in the country, how much workforce is available and how much resources are there in the country. So the balance between the two of them is going to decide the wage rate for the labor. The next is marginal productivity theory. Now this theory focused on demand for labor. So marginal productivity theory explains not only the general level of wages but the entire wage structure of a highly competitive economy in terms of interaction of supply and demand. So as a demand theory of wages, the marginal productivity theory fails to make full allowance for the particular nature of supply curve for labor. This is not needed actually. So like marginal productivity theory is very much similar to the concept of marginal productivity which we have been studying. Marginal productivity means addition to the total because of the consumption of one extra unit. So this theory is how much marginal productivity is every additional labor given to the organization, or based on that the wages or salary should be determined. Okay. So the next is, did you understand? Okay. Now the next is the residual claimant theory. So this says that wages as a part of residual surplus which is left after the factor charges have been met. So this theory was designed to emphasize the interest of working class in continual process and accumulation. So like in this one, after meeting all the expenses, whatever fund is left, that should be given as the salary to the employees. I mean, that should be distributed as wages. The share of labors in the wages, that is there. Like there is a concept of sharing the profits, new concept. The forms are, in profit prava, same thing. So out of profit, the amount should be paid to the laborers. Now, what is this bargaining theory? Wages are determined by the relative bargaining power between the workers of the trade unions and employers, and basic wages, fringe benefits, job differentials and individual differences tend to be determined by the relative strength of the organization and trade union. Okay, this is simple. It says that the determination of wages is based on the bargaining power of the worker and the trade union. The trade union and the management of a company. So this is perhaps the most practical method of wage determination, and Bollywood movies have shown a lot of this, isn't it? So bargaining has received considerable attention in view of the fact that wages are now determined by collective groups of workers organized into trade unions and employers organized into employers. Okay, you learn in HRD. Now, what is collective bargaining? May be seen as the process through which labor supply and demand are equated in the labor market. Means balancing the supply of labor and the demand of labor. Based on that, the wages are determined. That is collective bargaining. Now, these are some other types of bargaining. Okay, now that was about wages. Now let's go to employment, the second part, that is employment theory. So this says that there are essentially two schools of thought which propounded the interrelationship between wages and employment. So according to Pigou, unemployment would disappear if the workers were to accept a voluntary cut in wages. If like people or the workers, they deliberately accept the cut in the wage voluntarily, if they are going to do that, then more and more number of people will get employed, and that will solve the problem of unemployment in the country. Okay. Now the next is exploitation theory. Yes, we can say it is not possible. It is just a hypothetical theory. Okay, you know, in India in 2008 there was a famous what? What do we call it? The opposite of boom. Boom is one phase of the economy. What is the opposite? Can you tell me? Recession. Okay. So in 2008 there was a recession in India. Okay, especially in the lot of it was in the IT sector. So in that case people were chalked out. They were like their jobs were taken away. So that was an in that case people didn't voluntarily accepted the cut wages, reduction in the wage rate and all. So there was unemployment on the large scale. So now exploitation theory is Adam Smith suggested that the basis of an exploitation theory is the original state of things in which the whole produce of labor belonged to the laborers, and when there were no landlords, no masters to share with them. This is not needed. Now I have a video also. I want to show that to you. Just a minute. Now labor theory of value. We'll just first finish this. Not lots is left in this. So according to Marx, the simplest concept is related to man's activity of producing his means of livelihood was human labor. So he considered labor as an article of commerce which could be purchased on payment of subsistence price. So the price of any product was determined by the labor time needed for producing it. Okay, means more your labor is, more your wage rate will be, more skilled you are, more appropriate you are for a profile, your better you will be paid. Okay. Prabha, there is no hard and fast rule. It varies from industry to industry, situation to situation. Okay. Now competitive theory is this says that there is an assumption in this theory that neither employers nor employees combine together to influence the demand or supply conditions and that markets are perfect. So this theory is very wrong on the very first stage only, because we are saying that the markets are perfect and the employers and employee have nothing to influence the demand and supply of labor. This is hypothetical. This cannot be. Okay, so this theory is totally bad. Now I'll show you the video. Now this is important, purchasing power. So according to this theory, wage increases are desirable because they raise the labor income and thereby stimulate consumption. So purchasing power and consumption are usually increasing just prior to recession. So workers account for only part of total consumer spending. The assumption that general overproduction can be overcome by higher wages are some of the basic limitations of this theory. So it says that like the purchasing more wages will be paid to the worker, more will be their purchasing power, hence more will be the consumption in the economy, means people are going to buy more and more of the products and consume them. So because of the more consumption, the production will be more people will get employed, and hence the unemployment will be done away. So this is the basic assumption of this theory, purchasing power theory. Alright. So now I'll show you the video first.
see how prices are set and how wages are set. In an economy in which we have workers claiming higher purchasing power and firms wanting to have lower costs in order to have higher profits, we are looking for the point where workers and firms reach an agreement. That is, we're looking for the equilibrium real wage that clears the market, the labor market. So first, wages are set through collective bargaining, and then afterwards, prices are set by firms. So first we want to understand how the aggregate nominal wages are set. So imagine we're looking at this with the perspective of a worker who is thinking, well, what wage should I ask for? Imagine that we are trying to set the wage that we will receive next period. The worker has to wonder what is really behind wages. One of the things is prices. The reason why they should care about prices is that workers don't really care just about their nominal wage. Workers care about the real wage, which is the wage they receive with respect to the price level in the economy. They care about how much they can buy with their wages. They care about the amount of goods and services they will be able to buy with the wage they're asking for. But remember, wages are set before prices. So, at the moment workers make the decision about what wage to claim, they do not know exactly what the price is going to be. That is why we talk about the expected price level, which is the price level that workers expect that will happen to exist after they set the wages along with the firms. Other thing workers should care about is the conditions of the labor market. Since workers have to bargain for wages with firms, their bargaining power depends a lot on the unemployment level of the economy. If there are a lot of unemployed people in the economy, workers will have low bargaining power. Thus, in the process, they will be forced to accept a lower wage. Imagine the opposite case, that there is very low unemployment rate in the economy. In this case, workers have a lot of bargaining power, since firms know that there are a lot of jobs available out there. And if they don't pay enough to their employees, these workers will decide to go away to another company. So firms accept to pay higher wages. Now, there are other factors that affect wages, which are basically the characteristics of the labor market, which could be described as a catch-all variable called C. And these are, the minimum wage, unemployment insurance, etc. You can think of it this way: whenever protection in the labor market is high, people have a higher bargaining power and they get higher wages. So now we know how to get to the basic wage setting equation. Now remember that if workers expect the price level to go up, they will bid their wages up in order not to lose any purchasing power. If the unemployment rate in the economy is high, workers will be forced to accept lower wages because they fear that if they don't accept lower wages, they will get fired. Now imagine there is a government who decides to make the labor market more flexible. They will cut down the minimum wage and the unemployment insurance, lowering C. And now firms have more power in order to force workers to accept lower wages.